afternoon, everyone. Joe Keadle, he's ready to give us a presentation, so I'm sure it's going to be very informative. Thanks a lot, Pat.
All right, two important things out of the way. First, the score is 27-7. Oh, that's the Georgia score, never mind. 27-0. Okay. These all let them produce score. You're doing that better than we are. So, I'm going to talk about several things that kind of seem a little dry. You're not going to need to take a lot of notes. You're not going to need to learn how to do math. I'm going to go through a fair amount of math. We're going to give you the entire presentation deck, and I'm going to give you an Excel workbook so you can plug your own numbers in and see what your numbers are. I want to make it easy for you. That way I'm going to touch on the concepts and how they apply and why they're important, why they should be very important to you and the success of your dealership. Because right now what we're dealing with is some unprecedented times. There are things that are not in your control. There are things that are in your control that you can influence. And there are other benchmarks that you can measure yourself against to see how you're doing against other used car dealers in the U.S. So let's dive right in. So what are the things that you can't control? Here comes some scary graphs, okay? So when you look at, are we in a recession or not? If you look at a textbook, it'll say 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. That is a recession. If you listen to our leaders in Washington, no one wants to say that we're in a recession, right? Everything's great because we just keep printing more money and handing it to people. And so they're technically saying we're not in a recession. Everybody around my world seems to be really concerned that we are in a recession and maybe exiting the recession, or it may have a double-dip recession. Because when you look at civilian unemployment, anybody can see that spike. These are September year-over-year periods. Remember what happened there? Everyone wear masks because masks work so well. COVID spiked everything, created a huge hole in the economy, right? Remember how much fun that was? Yeah, like kids outside. But employment has stabilized. When you look at all the way through September of 23, it's starting to stabilize. It always bounces around some. These are non-farm payrolls. This is non-seasonal employment, so it's very most stable employment number that you have to look at. But there's a ton of things that have impacted us in the used car business. So, who remembers COVID? Hated it. Who remembers back when it was GM, Ford, and Chrysler? They halted production. Now, why is that important to used car dealers? Where do your inventory come from? The used car factory. The used car factory shut down, right? Leases shut down, retail shut down, everything shut down. So you've got this hole moving through the pipeline right now. That's impact. Do I remember what prices did after COVID? Remember how much fun it was to be a car dealer if you actually had a car on the lot? Like, I like to buy a car, I like to negotiate on that one right there. Oh, never mind, I'm just going to go talk to this person. So there was always someone there to take that inventory. Frankly, we got into some pretty good times, pretty bad habits, because it was easy if you could find inventory. There were 6 federal packages, spending packages, approved. Anybody here get any of that money, that good PPP money? The PPP money? Great. I hope you got it under your mattress. You look at when Russia invaded Ukraine, year-over-year major impacts. That created a huge inflation spike. So, politics aside, what that did is that turned off the breadbasket for Eastern Europe and Asia. So, wheat, corn, rice, the largest exporters, producers of that for China, South Asia, and other Eastern European countries. Huge spikes in inflation. Now we've got the Inflation Reduction Act, which was basically more money thrown into the air, and wherever we could catch it to keep it. That's at 0 impact on inflation. 0. It was sometimes a curse on stage, I get in trouble. It was a crap load of money that we all decided to hand to each other. Now you've got the UAW strike. We're dead in the middle of that. What is that going to do to the used car factory? Are you seeing anything in the lanes yet because of the strike? Are you seeing any consumers get a little nervous or maybe accelerate purchase? Is anyone seeing that? A little bit, not yet, though, right? Kind of watching it.
Part shortages.
The parts are going to be an issue. They're doing a strike unlike any strike that we've had before. So whatever your thoughts and feelings are about Sean Payne, he's figured out how to decrease the impact on his people and strategically target the one part that you need or you can't deliver the car. That's also the one part you may need for recon, right? So your asset, your money's sitting there tied up. So the guy's going about it very strategically. 11. Can't even count. 11 rate increases. Do y'all realize 11 since March of 22? It went from 1/4 of a point to 5.5. And where is it sitting today? At 5.5. When's it going to go down? They're not talking about it going down until Q3, Q4 of 24 or Q1 of 25. So we're going to be living in a high interest rate environment. This is the help that the federal government's been giving us to help tame inflation. It's 11 rate increases. That is impacting you. It's impacting your consumer, and it's impacting whomever you're sourcing your inventory from. These are all pressure points that you got to navigate, but you don't get to control. So, what is it doing to used car prices? I love having a giant screen behind me. 4.2, largest price decrease in history. One of, I think I had to go back 16 years to find one close to that, May to June. But then we turned right around, we're like, okay, prices are normalizing. Wholesale values are going to start declining normally now. And then it went up. Who predicted that? I didn't. Jonathan Smoke didn't, Contos didn't. And now we're looking at 3.9% down from September. So you look at how low that line has been. Big spike, that's when we could sell anything we could get our hands on with no negotiating. Then it started dipping and dropping. You had that dip, another price rise, you had that secondary bounce, and now it's just going like this. But what is going to happen with rates? What is going to happen with consumer confidence? What's going to happen with the strikes? All of those are going to push that line up or down. And you got to start thinking about how that impacts your business. Because the people you sell to, I went back to what I thought was the last normal time, 2017. Remember how nice 2017 was? But you kind of miss it. We didn't have COVID, we didn't have all this inflation, we didn't have all this turmoil. It was just kind of normal. You could run your business. Prices were stable. You bought a used car, you need to sell it. It was going to slowly go down. It's not like it is now. But to the consumer, the new car factory, we're selling cars at $502 a month. Now it's $730 a month. That's straight out of their pocket. An extra $227 every month. For the people in this room, you were writing paper on average in the U.S. at $365 a month. Now, $204 later, $569 for the average used car payment in the U.S. $569. Who's had people blow out of the F&I office lately? Who's had people that you can't stretch the term long enough, or even hang the paper because the rates are eating it up and pushing the payment up? That leaves you with a piece of inventory on your lot that you get to look at one more day. Right? Is anyone feeling any of this? It's fantastic. So, what about the consumer? What about the person that's got to pay for all this stuff? So, their confidence rises and falls with what they can buy. What they can buy from you, what they can buy from the grocery store, where is their dollar going? How far does their dollar go? Blue line is the money they have and they make. The black line is the bad line. That's the naughty line. That's when the dollar doesn't go as far as it should. So if you look at January of 22 to January of 21 into March, that black line starts greatly accelerating. That acceleration means your dollar is buying 90 cents, 80 cents, 72 cents of what it used to. That directly impacts the people in this room. And it stayed that way from March 21 all the way till around September of last year. Look how wide that gap gets at a high of 8.6. So when you equate that, it's like a $7 wage decrease. $7 an hour wage decrease for people. So who wants to give me $7 an hourly wage? Meet me after class. I'll take it from all else. But that's what happens. That's why you're having your inventory mixes are changing. That's why your auction lanes are changing, your conversion rates are changing. And then finally, maybe, I'm sure they would claim it, because the incredible Inflation Reduction Act and the amazing decisions that Jerome Powell has made, the black line is now below the blue line again. Does anybody see anything that worries them? That black line is going back up, right? So what is going to happen? That's what's unpredictable. Those are the things that are not within our control that happen to us. And so we really need to look at how that hits the used car factory, because everybody remembers why there was no used car factory. That bubble is what we're going through now. It then spiked up, got a little bit more normal, dropped down again in mid-2001, 2002, it started creeping back up to normal. It went from around 15.6 up from 15.3. Y'all remember when SAR broke 18.6? That was not that long ago. Seasonally adjusted auto retail rate was always around that 16 million. It hasn't been that way in quite a while. That's your used car factory. That's your potential inventory next time. So, what are some things that you can do? You've got to focus on things you can control. So, it's not a typo, personal expenses. I know a lot of people run expenses through their dealership. It's your choice, it's your business, it's your dealership. That's a variable expense you can't control. You look at your marketing expenses. Are you a new emerging store? Are you moving into a new market? Are you trying to change your customer base? That expense is going to go up and down. And what is happening with your payroll? That's a controllable item. I want you to pay everybody as much as possible if the pay plan is designed well and you get the benefit. Hand everybody a dime, you get $1, right? That's the way it works. So what happens? You've got control over your assets, understanding your liabilities and where you can control them and cost contain them. What is your working capital and how are you deploying it? Generally, used car dealers, working capital is what's in the checkbook. And what are your potential earnings? I'm going to spend a fair amount of time talking about potential earnings and potential losses to illustrate a point. It's not a loss that you see in the checkbook, but it's a loss that you see on paper. It's that potential earnings that you could have had that you don't have. So, what are the potential earnings and losses? Excuse me. It says loss potential sales, corresponding potential earnings, and then the lost revenue. So it's lost revenue on aged inventory. Aged inventory is not your friend. I am not the guy that believes there's a butt for every seat. There's a spot on your lot for every car. Turn that car over as many times as possible, and you will not be proud of making $2,000 on a vehicle you had at birthday. That is not a sustainable business model. You need to be renting those spots out on your lot to yourself and understanding the costs associated with it. So you take your age of your average gross profit that you target. When you look at the lost revenue, it's that aged inventory and the dollars of potential. So let me just do a little math. Look at my simple math. If you got some stuff that's 180 days old, but you really want to turn stuff 25 days, you've got 4 units that are frozen. They're not doing anything for you, they're an expense. Those 4 units, you make on average $1,700 a copy. That's $7 grand that you just put on the table and lit on fire because it's frozen. You can't get to it, you're not earning it. It's an expense item. 10 units that you don't earn the $7 grand on, that's $70K a year you're flushing you could have earned. About not actively managing your inventory. Does that make sense? This is a different concept. A lot of people don't think about it this way. It's about making sure you're deploying your assets to the best of their ability so that you can turn around and make the most profit you can. Who's here as a for-profit business? Right, everybody's hand goes up. You're not as profitable as you can if you're not actively engaged in managing your inventory. And I know we all hate to take the wholesale loss. We hate to go back to auction. But sometimes you just gotta break out. May not be a bad car, it's just a bad car for you. I've seen it. I've actually traded cars with buddies back when I was on the car side of it. They would sell it in a week. Like, why did you sell it in a week? I've had this damn thing for 5 months. What, just different customers, different day, it was a Tuesday, who knows? But your job is to actively manage your inventory so that you can release the $70,000 of profitability. Excuse me. Excuse me, how we're feeling. We're going to look at your selling expenses. That's advertising, commission, and salaries. Commissions and salaries can be grouped together, a lot of people do. But selling expenses is anything that you are not passing on to the buyer of that car. So it's your shop, it's your fixed expense, it's your mortgage, it's whatever is not on your washout sheet that you're passing on to that consumer. So why is that important? Because you need to understand how much money you're spending every day to walk past that F-150, to walk past that conversion van, to walk past anything on your lot. There's a cost associated with every vehicle on your lot. Every day you have to pay it. Every day you're paying it. So you look at the monthly holding costs as your total expenses minus your selling expenses. We actually have an Excel doc. You can plug your numbers in. Don't get too caught up in the math. Monthly holding costs divided by the number of units in stock. Monthly holding costs per unit and the number of selling days in the month. You've got to adjust that. I use 22 days. I don't have to work very many weekends anymore. So I think there's 22 working days in the month. I do car dealers have more working days in the month than that. So how does that shake out? I have monthly expenses of 50 grand. But selling expenses are 22.5 of that. I've got 34 cars on the lot I can sell, and I make on average $17.50. So my monthly holding cost is $27,500 divided by the 34 units. Let's just call it $800 for the simple math. So now I take that divided by my working days, and it flattens out. If I've got $10,000 car, $20,000 car, doesn't matter because one number is easier to remember than having multiple numbers. That $800 divided by your number of working days, let's just call it $37 a day. So what you have to do is every day you go to work, you got to take $37 and put it on the hood of every car you have. I hope it doesn't blow away by the end of the day. Or you just put it in one big pile of carding. Because it's a hard expense that we get out of the habit of thinking about. I mean, you've heard this concept before. We just tend to forget these things, right? Because we're so busy doing what we do to survive and try to thrive. You're burning $37 a day for the privilege of looking at something you can't sell. But they just piss you off. It used to piss me off. So how long can you hold a unit in stock? This should blow up the concept that there's a butt for every seat. You want to make $17.50, and it's costing you $37 a day. If you don't sell that sucker in 48 days, you are losing money. You have accomplished nothing. Yes?
Would that be working days or?
Working days. Any day you're there to sell a car, count that day. We'll give you a day off. Nothing. Half a day. Depending on your state laws or your community laws. That's a change in the mentality of understanding the profitability you're losing by not managing your aged inventory and not understanding your daily holding costs. Put pressure on yourself and your team to move that car because there's a hard expense every day. You're taking $37 out of the checkbook every day for every car on your lot. Now your number is different. It's just an average number. You may be 50, you may be 35. Some of y'all have some fat cars out there. You may be 70. But you've got to think about that because we've all done it. We've sold a car, and we've had it for 6 months. We made 3 pounds of it, right? You didn't, because you could have sold 3 cars and made $6,000 with 1 car at 3. The holding costs will eat you alive in this business. Because remember when I went back on the consumer pricing and on the vehicle pricing? Who knows what vehicle values are going to be next week, month, next month? If you know that, then come on. Because I need to know that. Because we can't predict it right now. We've got the strike. We've got all these other things going on. The only things that are in your control is how you manage your inventory, how quickly you sell it, and replace it. So don't eat into all of your $1,700 you want to make by holding on to the car too long. What happens when you put it all together? You got 10 units that you didn't make $7 grand on. That's your $70K that you could have made this year. You've got your holding cost of $37 a day. You got 180 day units in stock. You want to be 145 days. 135 days are wasted. 135 days times that 37. That's $5 grand a unit that you're carrying for something that you thought you made a profit on, but you didn't. That with 10 aged units is another 50 grand. We've got to plug these holes in our operations so that we can become more profitable. And these changes are not enjoyable. You got to be dedicated. It's painful. It's painful to take that car and turn around to something else. But it's 120 grand potential impact in this scenario. And these aren't huge numbers. All of you have a different number that's in the room. We'll give you the Excel workbook so you can calculate your number. But understanding the daily holding cost. If you don't listen to anything else I'm trying to impart up here, daily holding cost. If it doesn't piss you off every time you walk by that car and realize you're putting $40 on the business, life is on fire, you're going to wind up getting yourself in trouble with aging. It's going to eat into your capital. When you eventually sell it, you're not truly getting the profit that you thought you were, and you wind up turning your inventory 2 to 3 times a year. You're not as profitable as you can be. You're not efficient. We can't control anything I talked about for the first 15 minutes. These are things that you can control. You've got to get your hands around it and talk to people about how to do this. There's a ton of people next to all that love to talk to you about this kind of stuff. We would love to talk to you about it, but it's common sense. These are things that we all kind of learn growing up in the business. So we get very busy running in the dealership. The dealership needs to be working for you. So what's our last area that we can focus on? Industry benchmarks. Now these are North American benchmarks because the U.S. and Canada were combined in the data that had the most accurate data, I thought. So, are you spending more than 30 to 36% on personnel expenses? Are your employees earning their income? need to be targeting $4,500 to $4,700 in gross profit per employee. That's per employee, not salesperson. Salespeople need to be selling 13 cars a month at that $1,750. You're spending too much on salaries, is your turnover rate too high? Federal Reserve, something, Washington D.C. It's $42,000 cost of turning over an employee. Yes, you're hiring somebody that still knows how to sell. Yes, you're hiring somebody that knows how to do title and tag work, but not for you. They haven't done it for you. You have your own way you want it done. And so the lost sales, lost opportunity, the hiring cost, training them as the way that you want them to do it, the lost sale while they're not there, contributing to the overall health and well-being of your dealership, and reduced gross profit per sale. What is the easiest way for a new salesperson to sell a car? Discount the shit out of it. Right? You're happy. You've had it for 5 months. You're glad that someone's brave enough to sell the dang thing. Right? So how do you manage these expenses? If you want to make $50K and you're making on average at $1,700, your salespeople need to be selling 13 cars a month, because that's 28 units you need to sell times 13, or divided by 13, you need 2.19 salespeople. I don't know where you get the 0.9 salesperson. I can't help you there. But if you have 3 salespeople to achieve your profitability target. So there's a couple ways to think about this. Just like we were talking about the average days on full, the average days holding cost, you can control that. You can set what you want to make, how long you're willing to hold the car. And when I gave a speech at another IDA, they pointed out to me, well, hey Joe, you're not even doing that right, because the older that car gets, the more I ride it down, the less profitability I'm even thinking of doing it. So you're giving up even more money. So 3 salespeople need to be carrying your weight so that you can hit your 50K goal. And if you want to make 75, if you want to make 100, great. Then now you need 60 cars and you need 6 salespeople. So you can back into this as to how much money you want to make. But don't lose sight of that average daily holding cost. There's a couple of key things that you need. If you're only doing any type of financial work for your taxes, I challenge you that you're not fully attuned with your business. You're managing it by a checkbook, which is the most real way to do it, because that's tangible cash. You're not really seeing the impact and the push-pull levers of your business. If you're only having your comptroller or your CPA or your outside person do it once a quarter, you are not looking at it frequently enough. You need real, tangible data to manage your store every month at minimum. You need to see the impact of your inventory holding, your average daily holding cost, all of your expense items for your people, your products, your vendor service providers, your salaries, your employee rate, your sales rate, and what you're paying them. Because otherwise you're making adjustments too slow. And it will steal your cash. This is an area of finding frozen cash. So are y'all with me so far? Good. Have a controller, have a CPA, have an accountant, find someone that can do this for you if you don't like to do it yourself, which I don't like to do it myself. I just run a finance company. I don't like to do math. It's hard. I have Excel for that. So I'm giving y'all Excel. But it tells you where you can look for cash, where you can be more efficient, and drive profitability to your bottom line. Y'all are not in this for volunteer work, you're not in this for charity work. You're in this for what it does for your community, your family, your employees' families, and what you can give back and you can build and grow. So be vicious about the diligence you run it with. So 24% max on compensation, not including management. What you decide to pay yourself is your business. But just giving you some averages. Generally, the management is 10%, 30 to 36% for total employees, everybody in the store, not just salespeople, not you. 8.1% policy work. I used to call that goodwill. I'd write people WEOs when I sold the car, and that's when I would only agree to do these things. Goodwill can often show up in your marketing budget because it's community give back. You want to have a good reputation. We've all been faced with that decision. Something happens the day after you deliver the car. You eat it because it's your reputation. That goes in policy work. 12% for advertising. That is a wildly variable expense. Are you a new store that no one knows who you are? Are you an old store that no one likes how things were and you're changing them? Are you an older store that is opening in another location? Or are you an existing store that is changing your model because now you no longer want to carry expensive units because it's eating you alive on your interest in your floor plan expenses and how you're structured? Or you can't find them. Or you can't find the parts for them. And so that will change greatly. Make sure you're just making conscious investments as to why you're doing it. And then, watch out for those floor planners. Keep them around 2% overall of your expense structure. Make sure that you understand how and why you're borrowing money from someone else to have a floor plan. Look, floor plans are great, but you need to actively manage them. It is a means to the end, and you need a floor plan partner. You don't just need the capital. You need the knowledge that they can help bring with you. So, any questions? We've gone through a lot. The main thing, seriously, just want this to be that average daily only cost is one of the most important things you can take out of this. Because that really makes the sharpest point of business impact for you. If you get mad that you're walking by and putting $40 on the hood of every car and lighting it on fire, you're probably going to change how you manage your inventory. This is the one change I want to help with to be able to really dive in and take it. All right, I'm ready for questions. Do that, I'm going to do the presentation again.
Oh.
Yes.
What's your number one recommendation for if you do have a car that's been sitting for an extended period of time? What would be your number one recommendation on how to get that car to a
So it goes going all the way back basic. When's the last time you drove it? Does it stink? Does it drive well? Is something wrong with it? Fix it, and then get back on the line as quickly as you can. If you're not staying in touch with your inventory through time, you're going to lose the ability to know that. Next, grin and bear it. Give that car to somebody else. If you can really cut the price and get a customer, then maybe you get some back end, maybe you get a referral, but that car no longer needs to be on your lot as a drain to you. Anything else? Yes.
That last slide, how old is that slide? You got 2% floor plan interest. Is that realistic with the rates have doubled?
No, you're not going to get a 2% floor plan interest rate, but it's 2% of your overall.
Because we'll take it.
If you do, take it.
No, you're saying 2% of your
2% of your overall expense
is
structure.
that a realistic number with the rates and everything going up and base fees and all that?
That stat comes out annually, so that is probably 14 to 16 months old. So we do know that there's been 11 Fed increases.
Yeah.
So
He said 2% of total expenses, you said 2% of profit.
yeah.
No, I mean expensive too, but I think that it still sounds like a low number for your whole year.
Yeah.
What over primary versus the total floor plan?
Base rates in the industry right now, base rates. And they're going to charge you something typically above base rate unless you're really special. 11.5. Yeah.
Didn't know what they were.
Yeah, so I can tell you for the three largest floor planners out there focused on independent car dealers, base rate's 11.5.
Plus the fees.
Plus the fees, plus whatever they're putting on top of the base rate. And so that's why those things you can't control, you've got to heavily focus on the things you can. You need that profitability. That car, to your point, when you hold that sucker longer, that interest expense is just going to continue to rise. That fee expense is going to continue to rise when you look at a compounded interest rate. Plus, it's also taking cash because you need, now, curtailments, I believe in curtailments. Principal down on a car that's sitting on your lot is a good thing because it eases the pain of when you make the tough decision to break out of it. What I'm encouraging you to do is pay less curtailments because you're breaking out of that unit on a reoccurring basis and you're making your money on the unit turn and not eating it all in your daily holding costs. What else can I do? I'd love to do this all day.
Joe, that was great.
All right, thank you.
All right, hey, thanks.
I've got two folks in the back. I've got a QR code. It doesn't capture any of your information, but it gives you the presentation and the workbook.